Are we measuring human success completely wrong? Welcome to this explainer. For decades now, our entire global economy has been built on this 20th century model of scarcity and a relentless pursuit of gross domestic product, or GDP. But as you've probably noticed in your own life and community, those old models are really starting to struggle. They're failing to capture what it actually means for humanity to thrive in the 21st century. So today, we're diving into the groundbreaking ideas that are completely reshaping our understanding of wealth, value, and the very future of our society.
Here's the roadmap for what we're looking at today. First, moving beyond GDP. Second, living inside the donut. Third, AI and post-scarcity wealth. Fourth, the techno-optimism debate. Fifth, designing the minimal paradise. And finally, a solarpunk future. Let's get right to it.
Part 1. Moving beyond GDP. The obsolescence of 20th century economic metrics. Listen to this observation from Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz. It really hits the nail on the head. GDP basically just totals up everything made within an economy in a single year, from widgets to complex financial products at their market value. But if most people are actually worse off, that system is failing, period. This exact realization is what led figures like David Cameron to push for a focus on general well-being. Because there's a growing consensus right now that while GDP is great at tracking financial transactions, it completely misses the actual day-to-day well-being of a society. It doesn't capture your health, the strength of your community, or your peace of mind.
And this brings us to a really fascinating blind spot called the Easterlin paradox. Basically, decades of psychological and economic research prove that once our basic needs are met, just endlessly piling up more national wealth doesn't actually make a population any happier. In fact, economists are now looking at objective biomarkers, things like blood pressure and heart rates, to prove this point. More money, beyond a certain threshold, simply stops moving the needle on our actual happiness. It really makes you wonder why we're working so relentlessly for a metric that stopped paying emotional dividends years ago, doesn't it?
Moving to Part 2. Living inside the donut. Ecological realism and human rights.
So, Kate Raworth proposed this brilliant concept back in 2012 called Doughnut Economics. Picture a literal donut. You've got these two concentric rings. The inner ring is the social foundation. That's ensuring all 8 billion people on Earth have life's essentials: food, health, equity, the basics. The outer ring is the ecological ceiling, representing our planetary boundaries. In this model, true success isn't shooting blindly past that outer ring for the sake of growth. It's about thriving in that sweet, ecologically safe, and socially just space right in the middle of the dough. It's a completely different vision for what human success looks like.
Okay, but practically speaking, how does a business actually operate inside those boundaries? Well, according to theorist Marjorie Kelly, organizations need a fundamental, ground-up redesign. This isn't just about tweaking a product pipeline. It requires transforming 5 core layers: purpose, networks, governance, ownership, and finance. To survive in the 21st century, an enterprise has to shift away from those old extractive models and become regenerative and distributive by design. Every single layer of the business has to align with this new reality.
All right, Part 3. AI and post-scarcity wealth. The technological lens of abundance.
Look, we hear a ton of anxiety about AI coming for our jobs, right? But as outlined by Dr. Tan Quan Hong, the reality is a dual nature of automation. On one side of the ledger, yes, we absolutely face AI job displacement, where human labor in routine tasks is replaced. But on the other side is AI job transformation. This is the shift that's probably happening in your own industry right now, creating entirely new roles and cognitive efficiencies that actually complement human skills. The critical question here isn't just about aggregate job numbers. It's about how we manage the transitional gaps and, crucially, how we distribute the massive wealth this new technology generates.
And that naturally leads us into some seriously mind-bending academic research. There's a recent preprint paper detailing what's being called the infinity economy. This framework argues that our old thermodynamic models of scarcity are becoming entirely obsolete. Imagine a convergence of AI, autonomous production, and potentially decentralized quantum energy. We could theoretically be looking at an economic landscape where wealth creation and value distribution are completely decoupled from material limitations. Think about a self-sustaining system of abundance where the basic math of scarcity just no longer applies.
Which brings us to Part 4. The techno-optimism debate. Abundance versus ecological limits.
Now, proposing infinite growth immediately sparks a massive debate. On one side, you have the vision of fully automated luxury communism, championed by thinkers like Aaron Bastani. It's this wild future relying on limitless renewables and asteroid mining to give literally everyone the consumption patterns of a modern billionaire. But on the flip side, critics argue this completely ignores harsh ecological realities.
They point out that the rigid laws of thermodynamics, things like the Betz limit for wind turbines, along with the sheer scarcity of rare earth minerals, make infinite physical energy impossible without triggering total ecological collapse.
Imagine an old, peeling, abandoned roadside stand. It's kind of the perfect visual for the pushback against that high-consumption vision, what some scholars bluntly call fully automated luxury barbarism. The core argument here is that equating human well-being solely with limitless luxury and endless material consumption is a dangerous, outdated fantasy. If we don't respect those planetary boundaries we talked about earlier, this hyper-consumerist dream is basically just a fast track to a devastating crash landing.
Next up, Part 5, Designing the Minimal Paradise, an investment in human capital.
So if infinite material luxury is off the table, but we still want to leverage AI's incredible productivity, where is the middle ground? Scholar L. Ali Khan lays out some fascinating math here. He argues that with today's global wealth, we only need to dedicate an estimated 20% of global GDP to guarantee a minimal paradise. That's a baseline where all 2 billion households on Earth have food, shelter, dignity, and security. Doing that frees up a massive 80% of our resources for creative economics, meaning science, engineering, entrepreneurship, and the arts. Basically, relieving destitution anxiety isn't just charity, it's a massive investment that maximizes human capital.
But how do we actually, realistically, build that baseline? These aren't just pie-in-the-sky academic ideas. They are very real policy strategies currently under heavy research. You've got Universal Basic Income, or UBI, which provides direct cash to offset technological unemployment. Then there's Universal Basic Services, which directly subsidizes the essentials like food and housing. And also the negative income tax, which flips the tax bracket so the most vulnerable receive income rather than paying it out. Dr. Tan Quanhong's research notes that while UBI is an absolutely powerful tool against job loss, it has to be integrated into a broader framework to prevent massive inflation.
And finally, Part 6, a solarpunk future, synthesizing technology and ecology. So we have the ecological boundaries of the donut and the technological abundance of AI. Can we actually bring these clashing philosophies together? Enter solarpunk. As a literary and art movement, it acts as a direct, hopeful foil to the grim despair of cyberpunk. It heavily emphasizes sustainability, permaculture, and community. But, and this is key, it isn't anti-technology. Instead, it features maker-hero archetypes who use high technology, like renewable energy and AI, to harmonize with nature, rather than dominate it. It's an incredibly optimistic DIY culture that beautifully blends bohemian individualism with strong social collectivism.
Which brings us to our final question and the ultimate thought experiment for you to ponder. We have the hard data showing that endless GDP growth doesn't actually make us happier. We have the donut showing us our strict ecological limits, and we have AI offering unprecedented productive abundance. So, will we stubbornly cling to 20th century scarcity, or will we choose to design a thriving, sustainable, minimal paradise? The blueprint is literally right in front of us. The choice of what to build is entirely ours. Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer. I hope this sparks some serious curiosity for you.